Hitesh, thank you for joining us today, one of our partners in India.
So we are the HeadmanLabs Private Limited based in India. Not a very old company, just 5 years old company. We started our operations in 2017. So initially we started with the only GPS tracking systems. Biggest pain in the customer in this particular segment is the fuel. We started with the existing fuel gauge and connecting it with the GPS devices. But unfortunately, we couldn't get the expected accuracy with the existing setup inside the vehicle. Then we started to explore various other options for the retrofitment of different fuel sensors. We imported some sensors from outside the market and we tested most of them. And then we realized, okay, now few sensors are very good as far as the accuracy is concerned. So we are working on the fuel monitoring since last 4 years. Existing fuel gauge with the CAN bus will not give you the exact accuracy which is expected, because if they give accuracy around 85 to 90%, it's not acceptable, because the theft is happening from the vehicle tank is 5 to 7% only. To prevent the fuel theft, how can we do that? People are they are putting some lock on the fuel tank, they are putting some cameras, but eventually it didn't help them.
The amount of an average fuel theft in India?
It's based on the trip. If a driver is doing a trip for 48 hours, he make one theft. Theft is 20 liter.
Do you have some particular story, a success story, where you helped a certain customer to save a certain amount of money by installing the sensor?
So we approach one FMCG client who have the distribution network all over the India. They are not relevant to this particular thing. They said that, okay, we have done some demo install on our few vehicles, but we didn't get the result. And after installing the fuel sensor for the 12 vehicles, and we give them the result after 1 month, they are quite surprised. The per liter mileage for all the vehicles is increased by almost 10%. Initially, it was giving 5 kilometer per liter. Now it is giving 6 kilometer per liter. So after comparing 1 month data, we realized that they saved almost 11% fuel every month. Their monthly fuel consumption is around 5 lakh liter, 500,000 liter, and they almost save 54,000 liter fuel for 1 month. Current diesel price is around $1.2. So 54,000 liter means 54.1, so around $70,000 a month.
Thank you for joining us today. This interview is actually the second one that we are conducting in English with one of our partners in India. The company is called HeadmanLabs, and it is represented by Mr. Hitesh Kanzariya. I think I have pronounced that more or less correctly.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, Hitesh, thank you for joining us today. I think that this conversation is going to be quite interesting to any integrator from any other country, from India, from any African country, from perhaps Latin America too, if we speak English there. Well, the main idea behind this is just to show that the integrators, the companies that install GPS trackers, different sensors, face more or less same challenges, regardless of what country they operate in. But at the same time, there could be some new experiences that any company from a different country could share with the rest of the world. So Hitesh, could you please tell me a little bit about your company, about your experience in GPS monitoring in general and in fuel monitoring perhaps in particular?
Thank you, Alan, for the introductions, and we are glad that we are doing this interview, and I'm also very grateful to the escort to conducting the interview for us. So let me give you the brief about our company and our mindset. So we are the HeadmanLabs Private Limited based in India, and we are 5 years old company, not a very old company, just 5 years old company. We started our operations in 2017, and we are in this business since last 5 to 6 years. Yeah. So initially we started with the only GPS tracking systems, and periodically we realized that the biggest pain in the customer in this particular segment is the fuel. So we started exploring different options for the fuel monitoring systems. We started with existing fuel gauge and connecting it with the GPS devices and measure the fuel accuracy. But unfortunately, we couldn't get the expected accuracy with the existing setup inside the vehicle. So then we started to explore various other options for the retrofitment of different fuel sensors. We imported some sensors from outside the market. We got some from within India, and we tested most of them. And then we realized, okay, now few sensors are very good as far as the accuracy is concerned. So then we dive into the field monitoring system. So we are working on the field monitoring since last 4 years, and believe me, it's very emerging market in India, and the level of accuracy we provide with the help of manufacturer like Escort, it's quite tremendous, and acceptance is very high in the customer. So yeah, so we are in this business for last 4 years, and we are doing quite a good thing with the fuel monitoring systems.
Okay, that is great to hear. Uh, in your opinion, how common are the capacitive type fuel level sensors in India? Because I got the impression that most of the people just prefer sticking to the CAN bus or something like that.
Yeah, so see, unfortunately, we don't have a manufacturer in India who are developing capacitive sensors, and the one who are developing that are for the industrial use, and they are quite costly. So now the difference between existing CAN-based fuel monitoring system and the retrofitment with the other fuel monitoring capacitive sensor is quite big. Like existing fuel monitoring system, existing fuel gauge with the CAN bus will not give you the exact accuracy which is expected, because if they give accuracy around 85 to 90%, it's not acceptable, because the theft is happening from the vehicle tank is 5 to 7% only. So the purpose of the customer, purpose of the consumer to prevent the fuel theft cannot be catered with the existing fuel gauge. So now the question is, how can we do that? So ideally, in the some years back, people are doing some. They are putting some lock on the fuel tank. They are putting some cameras, but eventually it didn't help them. So then this capacity fuel sensors came into picture, which give you around 99% accuracy, and it helped the customer to prevent fuel theft almost 95 to 97%. So due to that, now the customer are very aggressively they are asking for fuel monitoring systems. They are understanding the benefit of the capacity fuel level sensors. So yes, it's very high accuracy. With the high accuracy, we are able to replace the existing fuel gauge system with the capacity fuel sensors.
So the customers are looking for the accuracy. And my next question is, if they come to you, perhaps a new prospective customer approaches you, and are they already aware of all the options that are available to them, or you still need to first introduce the fuel level sensors to them and perhaps educate them a little bit on the topic?
Yeah. See, when the customer approaches, they just wanted, they have the pain area. They just wanted to prevent the fuel theft. They don't know the available options in the market. They heard from somewhere that now some company are working on the fuel monitoring system and they are giving good accuracy. So they approach us. What can be done on the fuel monitoring side? How can we prevent the fuel theft? How can we, improve the fuel accuracy and all this stuff? So now we have to explain them from scratch. What is the existing mechanism is there, and what we are going to do, and what are the other options they have. Yes, to educate the customer, that is most required to gain their trust. So we explain them what is the existing setup is there, using fuel gauge, what type of accuracy you receive, how it works. Now after fuel gauge, we have the capacitive sensors, and how the capacitive sensor works, and what is the level of accuracy you get. We also give third options to go with the flow meter, with high accuracy flow meter, but that's quite costly. So now we give them the three options, whatever options you have. One is the existing setup is there. Now you have the capacity fuel sensors and you have the flow meter. The best options currently they have, as for us, is the capacity fuel sensor, which is very cost effective and it is result oriented. So you get the 99% accuracy, and that is the best you can do with this existing level of accuracy and existing setup you have, because flow meter we have to put 2 to 3 flow meters, one in the outward lines, one in the reverse lines. So it's quite complex task, and you cannot get the accuracy in the full flow meter also. So we convince them, we try to explain them everything, because being honest with the customer, that is most required. So we explain them all the scenarios, how they can do that, what are the existing options they have, and what is the best option they have to prevent the fuel theft. So after doing that, they are quite aware about the technology available in the market. They are quite aware about the the solutions available in the market, and then they can take over. So that is the approach we do with the customers.
Okay. I think that's the only right approach out there. But my question is, mm, do you educate them to the point when they become quite autonomous and they can do the analysis of the data that is collected for them on the
Yes.
platform by themselves, or you still participate till the very end and your employees still have to sometimes take a look at the charts, at the reports, and then explain to your end customer what actually was happening with the fuel on that particular vehicle?
Yeah. So ideally, after the installation and commissioning, we give them the training. We identify one or two scope from the customer side. We explain them everything. We explain them how you can, prevent the fuel theft. How can you identify the fuel theft? How can you identify fuel fillings? How can you identify the consumptions and all these stuff? So ideally, during first month of the implementation, we parallelly do the things. We call them. We explain them. Okay, here you can see there is a fuel theft. This is the false fuel alert. This is the actual fuel filling is happening. This is actual fuel consumption. So we educate periodically with them. And when there is some issue arising from the customer end, they just call us. We have an event, a fuel theft event, but we are not able to figure it out whether it is a right event or whether it is a false event. So then our team, our expert team, you are digging into that particular event. They identify whether it is a false alert or is a correct fuel theft happened. And we tell them, we explain them how we can figure it out, what we have done, and how we come to these conclusions. Because you cannot available 24/7 to the customers. Yeah. So educating them, that is the best options you have. So we always educate them, and that also help us. Because sometimes we also get feedback from the customers, which we didn't aware. So we get the feedback from customer, okay, our fuel theft happened during the vehicle was running. So these types of event we never heard that while fuel vehicle is running and the driver is doing the theft. So then we analyze, we compare with different durations, like every 2 hours we compare, and then we realize, yes, they are doing it. And they are doing through reverse pipe. So again, when you educate them, and they also give you the different scenarios, how the fuel theft can happen, and how you can prevent them. So the first thing and the foremost things we do is we educate the customers, we give them the training, and periodically we also get the feedback from them.
What happens when, say, a real fuel theft is reported? Do your customers act on that information immediately, or they prefer to be a bit more cautious because getting rid of the drivers could be an issue when it comes to finding the new ones?
Okay, so now this the real-time scenarios when there is a fuel theft happen, what we do. So whenever the customer approaches, they just come to us and tell that whenever there is a fuel theft, immediately we should get the alert. So we straight away tell them, no, it's not possible. We cannot give you the real-time alert of fuel theft is happening because there are chances there was a false alert. So we cannot tell them immediately, okay, now fuel theft happened. And what as options you have? You directly call the driver, you threaten him or something like that, and he ran away, keeping your vehicle at some isolated place. So we always tell them, don't believe on the spot alert. Don't believe immediately when you get the alert. You analyze it. When you analyze it, you figure it out what happened, whether it is a false alert is there, whether it's a correct alert, and then you take the actions. And we always tell them, educate the driver before giving them the vehicle. There is a sensor fitment happen on there. So ideally, the purpose of customer is to prevent the fuel theft. Yeah. So there is a two way to do it. Either make the driver accountable for anything happening with the fuel, or you give them the incentive to prevent fuel theft. So we tell the customers, instead of threatening to the driver, you will remove him or you do some fine on them or something like that. Better you tell them you have a sensor installed on there. You can identify the fuel theft. So better you don't do that. And if you are doing a good optimization of the field, you will get the incentive. So we always tell them to provide the incentive to the drivers instead of making their life more troublesome or something like that. So we always educate customer also. It's not good to give trouble to the drivers and all these stuff. You better give them the incentive to prevent the fuel theft. And it also make driver aware about the technology, aware of the system it is fitted on the vehicles. So they all a bit they are a bit now they are a bit settled. Now we don't have options to do the fuel theft. So they are doing good job and they are getting good incentives. Initially, it was happened that when there is some equipment is happen on the customer vehicle, driver run away. Straight away they run away because they don't have options. They are earning very less from the customer, and they are not able to, like the theft from the fuel side. They are not able to sustain. So now customer has, revise their salary. They're giving them different incentives on there. So now everything is settled. So yeah, we have to educate customer also to keep the drivers intact and provide them the incentive to minimize the losses customer do have.
What's the amount of an average fuel theft in India, in your estimation?
See, yeah. So the fuel theft in India, it's based on the trip. If a driver is doing a trip for 48 hours, he make one theft. Theft is 20 liter. So what they do is that. So ideally, the scenario is it's not a win-win. It's a lose-lose system for the driver as well as the customer. So what is happening in India? So when there is a driver who want to do some theft on the fuel, he go to some highway hotels, and where they reach to the hotel, they ask the hotel guy to give them the money against the fuel, 20 liters fuels. So now hotel guy what he'll tell driver, he give them the free food. So now when the driver is taking his lunch or dinner, the hotel guy go to the vehicles and then he remove the fuel. Now ideally the agreement is to remove the 20 liter fuel, 20 liter diesel and give them some X amount of money. But it's not happening because the hotel guy will not remove only 20 liters, he remove 30 liters and give money for 20 liters to the driver. Now for the driver, it's a loss. From the customer, from the company, it's a 30 liter loss. But driver get only money for 20 liters. That is also subsidized money. So it's a lose-lose for driver as well as the company. And who is earning from them? A guy running the hotel who are doing this fuel theft. Yeah. So that is the current scenario in India. So what we are doing, we are telling the customer, so you have a 30 liter theft, you just give 10 amount of 10 liters some amount like 800, 900 rupees to the driver who is not doing the fuel theft to give them an incentive. So you have only 800 rupees. So you are preventing 20 liters fuel theft and driver is getting the amount which he is getting from the hotel. So he is also happy. You are also happy. Yeah. So this is the mechanism currently happening in India. So that's how it works.
It's just that some of our partners from different countries have told us that sometimes it doesn't depend on how much the drivers are getting paid. They still continue stealing. So I got the impression that in India, you warn your driver that he shouldn't steal. You perhaps raise his paycheck, but if he doesn't stop, you get rid of him.
Yes, definitely. That's the same thing because after the fuel sensor has been installed, there is no chance you cannot figure it out if there is some theft is happening. So you identify the driver who is doing this fuel theft and you get rid of them. That's the best way they can do because they cannot keep him because he is impacting other drivers also. He may tell their colleagues that okay, I am doing this, but I am not getting caught. So it's a wrong practice. So if after warning also if they are doing the same thing, it's the best way to get rid of them. That's the best way they can do.
I'd like to take this pause before we continue with the line of our questioning to address our audience. If you like this interview, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button to stay tuned. And if you would like us to explore some perhaps specific topics in our next interviews, be sure to leave your comments in the comment section. Now, back to our conversation with Hitesh. Hitesh, so do you have some particular story, a success story, where you helped a certain customer to save a certain amount of money by installing the sensor? So could you give me one case of before and after?
Yeah, so we approach one FMCG client who have the distribution network all over the India. So they have actually the best part is they have tested few fuel level sensors with different integrators, but they didn't help them. So when we approach them, they are not relevant to this particular thing. They said that okay, we have done some demo install on our few vehicles, but we didn't get the result. So we told them, if you have done demo from other integrators, why not with us? Just give us two vehicles. We give you the result. If result is not as per your expectations, I will remove my sensors. So they agreed that okay, fine, do this. So we have done demo installation for the two vehicles, and we give them the result. they're surprised. Okay, now it is actually is working. Actually, we are able to figure out the fuel theft. So then they ask, okay, now do it for another two vehicles. So periodically we have done installations for 12 vehicles to just figure it out whether it is working or not. In different size, like some is the metal tank, some are the plastic tanks, some are rectangular, some are the square tanks or rectangular tank. So we have done installation of all types of vehicles. And after installing 12, installing the fuel sensor for the 12 vehicles, and we give them the result after 1 month, they are quite surprised. The per liter mileage for all the vehicles is increased by almost 10%. Initially, it was giving 5 liter per 5 kilometer per liter. Now it is giving 6 kilometer per liter. So they are quite surprised, and they are saying that now if this kind of accuracy and this kind of result we are getting, that we are okay to do for all the vehicles. So now we have done they have around 180 vehicles, and we have installed for all the vehicles. Now, after doing the installations, after doing all the installations, we compare 1 month data. So after comparing 1 month data, we realized that they saved almost 11% fuel every month. Their monthly fuel consumption is around 5 lakh liter, 500,000 liter, and they almost save 54,000 liter fuel for 1 month. And that's almost ROI for a month. They are able to get the return of investment only 1 month. So they are quite happy. And the best part is they are telling their peer partners that we have done this particular installations and we are quite happy and we are able to save 10 to 11% on fuel every month. Yeah, so why don't you do that? So after that, doing this successful implementation of one FMCG client, we are also getting inquiry from other clients also. So by doing the correct installations, and you can almost save around 10 to 11% on fuel every month. That's a quite big number. Looking at the current market scenarios, looking at the current fuel price, it's really a very good number.
I'm sorry, Hitesh, did I hear that correctly? 5,000 liters in 1 month and for just one vehicle, or all those demos?
No, it's 180 vehicles. The cumulative for 180 vehicles, their monthly consumption is around 500,000 liter for 180 vehicles. Now we have done installation for all the vehicles. Now after doing full installations, we observe data theft and all this stuff for 1 month, full month. And after doing the data analysis for 1 month, we realized on the previous month they were supposed to spend around 500,000 liter, and on the next month they are able to get 427,000 liter, so almost 54,000 liter saving for 180 vehicles. So almost 11% saving.
So what would be an approximate amount in dollar equivalent in India, given the prices today that you have today?
So it's a $1.3. Current diesel price is around $1.2. So 54,000 liter means 54.1, so around $70,000 a month. A saving of $70,000 a month on the fuel price only, on the fuel only. And this is only for the fuel, but you are not getting actual ROI. So when you prevent the fuel theft, you are also optimizing the filling. So initially the vehicle was doing for a trip in 48 hours. Now it reduced to 42 hours. So calculate 180 vehicles multiplied by 6 hours. So you are getting almost 200 to 210 vehicles output in 180 vehicles. So you are not taking that account that your trip duration is decreasing. So that's also another point. So if you combine all these criteria and if you do, so almost 13 to 14% saving they are doing on fleet.
Yeah, that's an impressive number. In just one customer.
One customer, yes.
How many sensors approximately have you installed so far in general?
So we have almost installed around 2,000 plus sensors for different vehicles. The wired sensor, and recently we started with the BLE sensor. So we have almost deployed around 800 BLE sensors last 4 months, and that is also a very good technology as far as the sensor is concerned. Like initially we get the service call from the customers. The driver do some builds a wire cut, they remove the socket, they remove all this stuff. So that was again a pain area. That how we can we prevent it? We cannot prevent the wire. So they cut the wire, they do the fuel theft. After 2-3 days, the vehicle came into this service area, and then we do this. But after these BLE sensors, now everything has gone out. Now there is a no chance that driver can do some city seat with the sensors.
Yes, indeed, the
So
BLE
that's a good
sensors
area.
are actually a bit more difficult to sabotage because we have been told some very weird stories, even here in Russia, by our partners from different parts of our country. For example, there was a story of the drivers actually covering the wires with some animal fat so that the rats
Yes, yes,
actually
I
live
heard
on
that.
the
I heard that.
cables.
I heard that.
That's
I
one
heard that.
way
I
of
heard that.
sabotaging the sensors. I was actually very surprised to hear that.
Correct, correct.
Does something like that happen
And
in India?
drivers are correct, correct. So driver is really very smart. What they do is they remove the socket, they do the fuel theft, and when the vehicle is approaching the plant area or the service area, they do the refitment. Now we are not able to find out why during this time fuel sensor was not working. Yeah, they are very smart. So they put some rates inside the dashboard. They cut some wires and all this stuff. So you cannot make the driver accountable for some activity by the rates or something like that. So it was again a gray area that we were not able to figure it out how to prevent them. But after the BLE sensors, everything is gone.
That's one of the main benefits the BLE sensors
Yes,
actually
exactly.
bring on to the table, as well as probably cutting the time that you spend on the installation.
Exactly. That's also benefit.
Okay.
And the best part is you can use the OBD device with the BLE sensors. So initially, when the wired sensor is there, you could not use the OBD device. You have to have the wired device to connect the RS485, connect with the RS2 with the analog. But after the BLE sensors, you no need to go for the wired device also. A simple OBD device from the some specific providers, you can use the OBD device with the fuel sensor.
Hitesh, how do you actually select the equipment for every particular customer? I'm referring both to the GPS trackers and to the sensors, and also actually the software too. What are the red flags for you that you shouldn't go for this or that device or that software? And what are on the other side of the spectrum? What are the good indicators for you that okay, this equipment I can give to that customer?
So initially, what we used to do is we, put GPS devices from different vendors. Almost 8 to 10 vendors. We get the GPS device. We tested it with the fuel sensors inside our office. We have some setups where we have the fuels, we have some bucket and everything. So we tested almost a week in our office, and then we realized which device is best. Best in the sense that how we can use that. Do we have the FOTA facility? Do we have the SMS facility? And how which kind of support we are getting in case of some issues happening with the GPS device. So based on the different criteria, there's also the bigger part is the cost, which is cost effective. Apart from all this stuff, the device should be cost effective because in India market is very big market as far as very conservative market, and the cost is involved because people are not very comfortable doing expense on the capex. Yeah, so we have to do all this analysis and then we come out with the device. And again, the requirement from the customer. If they have some specific requirement apart from only the fuel monitoring systems, we also keep in mind what is the requirement. Like some customer also need the KMR and HMR from the heavy vehicles. We cannot use the simple device. We need to have the device with the CAN capability. So based on that, also we decide the devices. Some areas are there where there is a mining area where there is no network connections. Again, we have to choose a device cautiously that which device can collect the data and which device can be used with the Wi-Fi. So there are different parameters we consider while we are giving the solutions to the customers, and based on that we decide which GPS device to we go with. Now, as far as the fuel sensor is concerned, we have only two criteria. One is the accuracy. A sensor which gives us 99% accuracy, that is a bare minimum thing. If the sensor giving is 98% or 97% accuracy, half the cost of the 99% accuracy device, we don't go with that because accuracy make big difference. Yeah. So we first and foremost thing is the accuracy. Second thing is the level of technical support we get from the vendors, like the OEMs. So we have different vendors. So the kind of technical support and timely support we get from the vendors, OEM, that is the best thing we look into as far as when we deciding the fuel cells. And not only the fuel sensors, like we had some meetings with your technical team regarding not only the fuel sensor with different different other sensors which can be compatible with our GPS device. So being a OEM, you have some knowledge like for this sensor you can go with there, for these sensors you can approach them. Yeah, so that is also make our life more easy. Like we come to you, we come to your technical team, we come to team and ask them, do you have any vendor who can provide us this types of facility? Instead of that, okay, go with them, they have these types of sensors. So kind of help we are receiving from the technical team, from the OEM, that is also makes a big difference.
That's good to hear that you do your research on yourself as well, because some companies go directly to us, and we actually sometimes still we are still facing some trackers brands that we have never had any experience before, and it becomes a challenge even for us, because first you need to find some data sheets and other documentation, and then you kind of trying to deduce if your sensor is going to be compatible with that tracker. But yeah, it's actually a common effort for all the manufacturers of the telematics devices, I think, and the companies that install them. Uh, actually, it seems that in India there is a very strong presence of Teltonika, and it's ubiquitous. So is that right, or you still
Yes,
sometimes dabble
yes.
in some other installing some other trackers of some other brands?
See, as far as the Indian market is concerned, the Teltonika is, they are doing a tremendous job in India. They have the different GPS devices which are, very good rate. You are getting a very commercially, it's very, very easy to approach and easy to get. So yes, as far as the Indian market is concerned, Teltonika is a big player in India. But again, for some specific requirement, we approach different customers, different OEMs, different suppliers, because there is some limitations from Teltonika also. They have some devices which have some limitations, they don't have the Wi-Fi devices. So when there is a no network, you have the Galileo Sky, you have the Wi-Fi devices. They communicate with each other in Wi-Fi mode, and when one base stations is available in the network area, it transmits all the data. So likewise, based on the customer requirement, based on the scenarios, we choose different GPS provider also. But majorly is Teltonik.
Yeah, so I thought. So essentially everything depends on the parameters of a particular case of a particular customer. If they need Wi-Fi, for example, as you said, you probably are going to look for some other device than Teltonika. Did I get that right?
Yes, correct. Exactly.
We generally like Teltonika devices because we by now have acquired much experience working with them, and we think that they are quite easy to configure once you know what you are doing, of course. But I think the majority of trackers still take some time to learn how they function and how to configure them. We are just a bit more reserved when it comes to the Bluetooth, because it seems that the Bluetooth modules that the Teltonika devices use, it really varies in quality, because some customers have reported great results. They never experience any connection losses. And while others, well, they have reported some issues, and we sometimes had to tell them that they would need to go back to the vehicle and check the stability of the signal again, and adjust the position of the tracker accordingly in order to achieve the best possible stable connection. Have you had any experience with that?
Yes. That's a common thing because in the Teltonika also, when your model is changed, if you are going from FMB 920 to FMB 120, you go from 120 to 125. So there is a difference. Yeah, and apart from model also, if you are changing the firmware, there is also a difference. So when you have decided one device, you have checked the compatibility with the BLE sensors, and you identify a particular firmware. It's better to stick with that only, irrespective when you have the new version of firmware or something like that, because it makes big difference. The firmware is also make a big difference. So if you are compatible, we are compatible with specific firmware for the specific device. We always use that device and that firmware. irrespective where they have a new firmware, they are periodically updating the new firmware, but fine. This firmware is compatible with the device, we go with the firmware because it's proven and tested. So that's also make a difference, like which model you choose and which firmware you choose.
Let's try and take a look at the future, Hitesh. What are your projections for the market in India? How is going to develop? If it's going to increase in volume and size, because it seems that the fuel is getting more and more expensive, and probably are you expecting a wave of new customers coming to you and asking for a comprehensive monitoring system that helps them cut the costs that they spend on?
Yeah, see, as far as the Indian market is concerned, it's a very big market, and there are, it's a very huge and emerging market. There are very big potential for the fuel monitoring system in India. Few years back, that was not the case, because few years back, fuel price was not that much, and the customer are not, they are not ready to adapt the new technology when the vehicle is concerned. But now fuel price is increasing. Now the digitization is happening, and now the customer is also, realizing now there is no option than going to digitize. They realize now the fuel, the best thing they can save on the fuel is to prevent the theft. So now we are getting good inquiries from the various customers, and they are looking towards to implement the fuel monitoring systems to prevent the fuel theft and optimize the machineries, vehicles, and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a big potential in the new market, and in the near future also, it's going to be very big. And due to that also, there are very numerous players in the Indian market who are dealing in the fuel monitoring system. But again, the same thing, your sensors should be quite accurate, and you should get the technical support which needs whenever it is required. So yeah, it's a big potential in market there, and we are expecting good revenue, good business in the near future.
How do you actually start your conversation with a new customer before giving them some demo, of course, or installing a demo sensor and demo GPS tracker? How do you look for them? How do you find them? And how do you start this conversation? Okay, you see you have a fleet of, I don't know, 100, 200 vehicles. We can help you with the GPS trackers, with the fuel level sensors. How does it actually happen? Does the customer come to you or you come to them?
There is both way. If we get some lead from different customers or from our sales staff that okay, particular customer is there who have the fleet of 100 plus vehicles, we approach them. Sometimes also customer comes to us that okay, now we have the fleet of this many vehicles. What can be done? They have the simple question: what can be done? Now, what we do is we analyze the number of fleets they have, how it is operating, whether they're operating in a close proximity, we are operating in within a specific area, they're operating in a mines, they're operating in interstates or something like that. That is also one thing. Another thing is we identify what is the actual fuel consumptions they do in a 1 month, or on an average daily, how many liters a particular vehicle fuel consumption. So based on that, we realize, okay, now for 1 month, the customer has this many fleet and average consumption is this many liters. If we just save 5% of that fuel consumptions in a month, what is the value? What is the value proposition we give to them? And then we approach the customers. Okay, now you have this many fleet. This is your monthly consumptions. Consider the minimum ROI is 1 month, maximum ROI is 6 months. Within a 6 months, you will get the return of investment what you are doing. So this doing some research on the existing fuel consumptions, doing the research on their fleet, doing how they are doing the operations and all this stuff. What is their actual consumptions of the fuel? We go to them and we give them the figures. Now we are not making big claims. We save you 50% fuel. We save you 20% fuel. Bare minimum, we save you 5% fuel. Now 5% fuel is this. Are you ready to invest this much amount to save the 5% of the fuel? They compare and then realize, okay, yes, we can do that. So without doing any research and without giving them the value propositions of the particular solutions, you cannot convince the customer. You have to give them the figures, and you have to give them the result. You have to give them the references, testimony. We have implemented for this client. You just speak to them if you want to, and you understand what we have done with them. So doing these things, most of the customers they realize, okay, yes, we can do that. Now again, the same thing. You have to be honest with the customers. You cannot just go and tell them you will give you 99% accuracy, and you don't give them the exact how the accuracy can be calculated. So we are very frank with the customer. We give them the actual calculations how the accuracy can be measured. Yeah. So if they have the 500-liter tank, we give them plus minus 5 liter, irrespective if you do 10-liter filling or if you do 500-liter filling, you will get plus minus 5%. Because this is the main thing they consider while evaluating the different integrators. They're doing the demo fitment for 2 vehicles. They do all the tricks to make the fuel theft on that. They remove 5 liters and tell us where is the 5 liter theft. We cannot tell them because it's 1% inaccuracy. So we always tell them 1% inaccuracy is what? Irrespective of the volume of the fuel you are removing from the tank or you are pouring into the tank, plus minus 5 is the threshold which we are deciding at this point. So yes, you have to give them the limitations of the sensors. You have to give them the limitation of the false alert. When you get the false alert, how to prevent that? Because your vehicle is running on a slope, you always get the false alert. So we always tell them, don't believe on the alerts. At the end of the day, you do the analysis, and then you come to the conclusion. Okay, fuel theft is happened or not. So we always tell them we cannot give you the instant alert. Now fuel theft is happened. You believe on the reports, you believe on the data. So that is how we go to the customers. We tell them different scenarios. We tell them the way of calculating the fuel theft. How we provide you 99% accuracy, and what is the meaning of that. So they have the trust on us. Doing this, they realize, okay, now we can put a trust on them, and then we can start the business, starting with some POC, and then we go for a full-fledged implementation. And there are chances, yes, you may miss some fuel theft. This is the technology, this is the electronics component. You may miss sometimes, but yeah, majorly 95 to 97% event, you get it.
Yeah, even if there are some minor hiccups, the bigger picture still looks a lot better than what the
Yes.
customers actually used to have before installing it. So it pays
Yeah.
off.
So we always tell them to compare. Yeah, we always tell them to compare the data for 1 day. Don't do it. Now the fuel is 360 liter. Now after 1 minute, fuel is 370 liters. While vehicle is running, there are some vibrations. You cannot prevent that. That's a limitation of the sensors. But look at the bigger picture. Look at the 24 hours data. Look at the 7 days data, and then you realize, okay, my vehicle is giving me this particular mileage per liter. And then you realize, okay, this is good for me. This is not good for me. This driver is when this driver, the same vehicle drawn by different drivers, giving a different per liter mileage. So you also get their analytics, and they also come to a conclusion that boom to hire, boom to keep, boom to fire.
That's actually good that you educate your customer and then help them make an informed decision based on the real data that you got from previous cases. However, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, I think, to get the feedback from the customers that you have already helped with monitoring the fuel. How do you go about that? Because they are sometimes, I know that they are sometimes reserved,
Yes.
but how do you overcome
Yeah.
that
So
barrier so that they could help you sell more sensors to other people who need them?
yes. Yeah. So it's depend. Sometimes customers don't want to reveal what they sell, but looking at their attitude, looking at their way of working, way of talking, you realize now they are saving enough with our solutions. So yeah, sometimes customer be frank with us. They are saying the single state. I was saying that we saved 54,000 liters last month compared to the previous month. And sometimes they said, okay, nah, it's good. We are getting good result. But that's enough for us that they are getting good result. Means they are doing good. If they are not getting ROI, they definitely not give us this particular statement. They are okay with the sensors. So yeah, some few customers are very conservative. They do not reveal the figures, do not reveal the output. But looking at their attitude, looking at their way of talking, we realize now they are doing good. They are saving good on the fuel.
Okay. Well, I think that we can adjourn this interview. It has been quite useful, quite filled with some very important information bits. I especially liked that you propagate this approach, not to make any big claims that you cannot support in future, but rather be a realist and convince
Yes.
your customer using some real numbers and figures, and they will come to you eventually when they have a clear vision of what the fuel monitoring actually is. So thank you, Hitesh, for joining me today for this
Thank
conversation.
you, Alan. Thank you.
You have been very open about everything that you have told me, I think, and for that I thank you.
Yes.
And if you have some farewell words to our audience that will watch this the recording of this interview on YouTube, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Some
sure. Thank you
recommendations.
for the interview. And again, yes. Recommendations. The best part here is we give the recommendations. We give the feedback to your technical team regarding some things which can be done with the existing sensors, and we are happy that they are acknowledging that yeah, this particular things can be improved. Same thing, tilt angle sensor. We always talk that why don't you do some algorithm to figure it out to remove the false alert. You put some tilt angle sensor on the fuel sensors, and based on the angle you can figure it out whether it's a false alert or right alert. So yeah, the team is quite accommodative, and they're acknowledging the honest feedback. Yeah, feedback can be good, feedback can be bad, but yes, they're acknowledging, and that's good for us also as a part of, as far as the integrator concerns. Yes, we are okay, and we are happy that you are listening to us, and you are trying to do your best to give us the more robust and more effective solutions, effective sensors.
Well, perhaps in some time we will have another conversation devoted completely to the angle sensors, especially when you get more customers that purchase them and gain some results. We would also appreciate if you put
Sure.
some real figures, like, I don't know, money spent on the cement to mix the concrete before the sensors were installed and after, or maybe the amounts of concrete used in a particular project. For example, in 1 week, we used to, I don't know, use that amount of concrete for the same purposes, and then after installing the sensors, actually the amount that we have to use is less, because, for example, the operators of the mixers stopped stealing the concrete, which is, I think, one of
Correct.
the most popular cases where our
Yes,
partners
absolutely,
employ
yes.
the angle sensors. Well,
Yes,
Hitesh,
yes.
this one is most about the fuel level sensors, and I hope that I will have another conversation with you, maybe in a few weeks
Sure.
or in a month or a few months, and we
Thank
will
you.
discuss the angle sensor, because they add an extra layer of the monitoring to any monitoring system.
Correct. Correct.
Well,
Thank you,
thank
Alan.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for the
thank you,
yeah.
Hitesh.
Thank you. Bye bye.
It's been a pleasure
Bye.
to make your acquaintance, and it's been a
Same
great.
here. Same here. Same here.
Okay,
Great day.
have a good day.
Bye. 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 Good day. Bye.